Hello there, a very good evening and welcome to another edition of Primetime News on TV1. I'm Charlotte Benedict for the Newsfirst team.
And I'm Mariam Guravijaya. Let's first take a look at your headlines for tonight.
Absence of parliamentarians scheduled to speak in Parliament stalls debate on the new Banking Amendment Bill. Bill passed without a proper debate.
ඊළඟට එන ඕනෑම ආණ්ඩුවකට නිවැරදි කරන්න වෙනවා. එහෙම නැතුව මේ විදිහට මේ මූල්‍ය තත්ත්වය ගෙනියන්න බෑ.
New proposals to limit the exorbitant profits earned through the sale of potatoes and onions. National People's Power challenges Sajith to an open debate with Anurakumara regarding economic policies.
ලිඛිතව අපට ආරාධනාවක් කරන්න ලිඛිතව අපිට එවන්න අපි කැමති ඔබේ නායකයාත් එක්ක සජිත් ප්‍රේමදාස නායකයාත් එක්ක මේ විවාදය කරන්න අපේ නායක අනුර දිසානායක සහෝදරයා සදා සූදානම්.
Cabinet not to lease for aircraft and import 1,000 new vehicles. World Bank report reveals 25.9% of Sri Lankans living below the poverty line in 2023. Sri Lanka on the brink of victory in the second test against Bangladesh.
And this time it's in the Sirasa was fighting hard in.
Starting off with a look at your top story tonight, the Banking Amendment Bill that was tabled in Parliament to introduce many crucial changes to state banks and the banking system of the country was passed in Parliament without a proper debate today.
The debate on the bill in Parliament today was stalled as the scheduled speakers from both the government and the opposition were not present in Parliament.
The Banking Amendment Bill was presented in Parliament as part of the reforms for the economy of Sri Lanka under the Extended Fund Facility of the IMF. The bill contained many important amendments to state banks and the entire banking system in the country. After passage of the Central Bank Act, the Banking Amendment Bill that was passed in Parliament today was tabled to introduce changes on the oversight of licensed banks, change the procedure to close down licensed banks, and introduce new provisions for the procedure on opening foreign commercial banks in Sri Lanka. The amendments also included changes to the procedure on the sale of licensed banks. However, the debate on the bill that introduces these amendments was stopped short today due to the absence of scheduled speakers, both from the government and the opposition in Parliament.
The scheduled speakers in Parliament today, Dr. Harsha De Silva, absent. M.A. Sumantiran, absent. Vijitha Herath, absent. Patali Champikaranawaka, absent. Niroshan Pereira, absent. S.M. Marika, absent. Professor Charita Herath, absent. Gamini Walabuda, absent. Nalaka Godaheva, absent. Tushara Indunil Amarasena, absent. Velukuma, absent. Udayakumar, absent. Charles Nirmalanathan, absent. Sirasa Gajendran, absent. Veerasumara Veerasinghe, absent on the government side. Professor Ranjit Bandara, Suren Raghavan, M.M. Muzaraf, Bandula Gunawardana, Vadivel Suresh and Shehan Semasinghe all are absent. Thereby Parliament is temporarily adjourned until 4 p.m.
Parliament convened again at 4 this evening.
There was no tradition to adjourn Parliament until ministers and MPs arrive. This has never happened before. In the past, if the MPs were not present, the bill is considered, and if the minister who is tabling the bill is not there, Parliament is adjourned. It should be taken the next day. Parliament was adjourned for over 2.5 hours, and we need to stay here. There were two other working committees in Parliament, the Committee on Ways and Means and the Consultative Committee. We stay in Parliament with those. We lose the opportunity to speak, which is our privilege. It is a bill related to the President, a finance bill. If the relevant subject minister, the President, is not here, there are two other state ministers. They weren't present either. There was no government minister or MP. No one on the speaker list was present. The finance bill is the government's responsibility.
මම යෝජනා කරනවා ස්ථාවර නියෝග අත්හිටවලා පාවෙනක මේ විවාදය අරන් ගිහලා 6 වෙනකන් හර්ෂ පැතුරු වගේ විවාදය අරන් යමු. එහෙම ගියොත් රෑ 10 විතර නගන් යන්න වෙනවා. නෑ දෙකොල්ලන්ගේම ගතිකව හිටියේ නෑනේ. කිසි දවසක මන්ත්‍රීවරුන් නෑ කියලා සභාවක් පැය දෙකක් තුනක් කල් දබපු ඉතිහාසයක් නෑ. පළවෙනි වතාවට මේ අත්දැකීම මේ සභාවේ දෙන්නේ. භෝෂක එජන්ට භෝෂක
විපක්ෂයෙන් කතාව පටන් ගන්න තවත් වෙලාව ගත වෙනවා. ඒ නිසා පැය භාගයක් විපක්ෂයට ලැබෙනවා, ආණ්ඩු පක්ෂයට පැය භාගයක්.
On social media, claims were made that we have gone elsewhere after claiming to attend Parliament. This is not the case. I chair the Committee on Public Finance, and as the chairman, I cannot stop it and come here.
මම සභාව මෙහෙවනවා මුදල් කාරක සභාවේ. මුදල් කාරක සභාවේ සභාපති හරියට ඒක නවත්තලා ඉන්න විදියක් නැහැ.
Regarding the amendment to Section 10, they want Section 10A amended to replace written approval by the Monetary Board with the consent of the Minister to the written approval of the Central Bank. The executive is the president and the cabinet. I don't know if their efforts to push these decisions towards a bureaucratic path is correct. Under Article 148 of the Constitution, Parliament has financial power. Its majority gets governing power and the cabinet comprises of government leaders, and we consider that the executive power. The crisis situation which has arisen regarding the financial discipline of our country with the Central Bank Act will have to be corrected by the next government. This financial situation cannot continue in this manner. This government amends laws to fit the agenda of the Central Bank and the IMF. This pushes the state financial power given to Parliament through Article 148 of the Constitution to a crisis, not legally but conceptually.
රාජ්‍ය මූල්‍ය බලය විශාල වශයෙන් නෛතිකව නෙමෙයි සංකල්පීය අර්බුදයට යනවායි කියන බව ප්‍රකාශ කරමින් මගේ වචන ස්වල්පේ නිමා කරනවා.
The banking amendment bill was passed this evening without a vote or amendments.
72 health trade unions staged a 4-hour strike across 10 hospitals today.
Yesterday, they also held a similar 4-hour strikes in many government hospitals, and their primary demand is to achieve economic justice for their members.
Staff at the Colombo National Hospital, Karapite Teaching Hospital, Jaffna Teaching Hospital, Batticaloa Teaching Hospital and Peradina Teaching Hospital, as well as the Kegol Base Hospital, Polonnaruwa Base Hospital, Trincomalee Base Hospital, Vaunia Base Hospital and Mannar Base Hospital joined the strike action today. Operations at the Colombo National Hospital was hampered with blood tests, radiation treatment and medication unavailable.
ට්‍රොලියක් මොකක්වත් නැහැ. මේ මිනිස්සු හරි අසරණයි. ඉතින් මේ වගේ මේගොල්ලෝ හරි අසාධාරණ වැඩක් මේ කරන්නේ. බෙඩ්ඩුන්ව ගෙනියන්න විදියක් නැහැ. ආවයසක ආය උදවිය ඉන්නවා මේ ට්‍රොලි වලට වෙලා.
ඒක කලින් දන්නවනම් පිටින් හරි කරන්න ලැහැත්ති වෙනවා. මෙතනට ආවට පස්සේ එකපාරට ක්ලිනික් එකට යන්න ලැහැත්ති වෙලා යන්නේ. ඒ වෙලාවෙදි මේ වගේ දෙයක් වුණාම අපි අසරණ වෙනවා. මීට මාස කිහිපයකට උදිත් මේ සිද්ධිය වුණා. දවස් 4-5ම ස්ට්‍රයික් වුණා. මේක රජයේ මොකක් හරි මැදිහත් වෙලා කරන්න ඕන මොන හරි මේකට ක්‍රමය වේදයක් තියෙන්න ඕන.
The strike was staged at the Karapite Teaching Hospital as well.
ඊයේ රෑ ඉඳලා මම රෑ 10න් පස්සේ නොකානෝ බීමේ ආවේ. මෙහෙට ආවට පස්සේ කියනවා තව පැය 4ක් විතර පරක්කු වෙනවයි කියලා. ඉතින් අසරණ වෙච්ච වෙලාවක් තමයි මේ.
දිනෙට එන්නත් ඕන. මේ උදේට කෑම ගන්නේ නැතුව අපි එනවා. අපි ඇවිල්ලා දැන් මේ රස්තිය උදව බලන්න.
This was the situation at the Peradeniya Teaching Hospital.
අපි මෙහෙම ඇවිල්ලා ඉන්නේ නෑනේ. මේ ෆාමසි වලින් ගිහින් බෙහෙත් ටික ගන්නවනේ. වැඳලා කියන්නේ අපිට ඇවිල්ලා බෙහෙත් ටික දෙන්න කියන්නේ මේ නෝන මහත්තුන්ට.
Staff at the Vaunia Base Hospital also engaged in a strike. Meanwhile, medical staff staged protests today opposite several hospitals, including the Colombo National Hospital, Jaffna Teaching Hospital, Kegol Teaching Hospital, Mathura District General Hospital and Gampaha District General Hospital. The All Ceylon Nurses Union staged protests today, citing several concerns.
We submitted our proposals and they were accepted by the Minister of Finance, including the Secretary. However, final approval rests with the President in his capacity as Finance Minister. Unfortunately, this has not happened yet. This is why nurses across the country, including those at the National Hospital, are holding protests today.
Sri Lanka ජාතික රෝහලේ හිතනිලාරින් විදියට අද අපි පාරට බැස්සේ.
Health trade unions participated in several discussions this afternoon.
සාකච්ඡාව සංකීර්ණයි අපිට ඒක සාර්ථකද අසාර්ථකද.
The discussion was complex and we are not sure if they worked. The health ministry needs to make a document to move forward. And there's another issue needing the president's attention in 2 weeks. We still don't have a good answer. The board is meeting to decide if protests start tomorrow or wait.
නැවත නායකත්ව මණ්ඩලය රැස් වෙලා තීරණයක් ගන්න නියමිතයි.
The Parliamentary Committee on Ways and Means has presented recommendations aimed at addressing concerns regarding profiteering in the import and sale of essential food items, including potatoes and onions.
A report released by the committee yesterday highlights a significant disparity in profit margins for certain essential goods imported through the Colombo port and sold at the city's wholesale market. The report indicates profit margins ranging from 100 to 1,000 rupees.
Teardrops and profit. The report by the Parliamentary Committee on Ways and Means identified a rise in imports of essential food items, including potatoes, onions, dried sprats, mung beans and Maldive fish. The report highlights significant profit margins on these imported goods. For example, the committee found that last year, the profit margin between the purchase price at Colombo port and the selling price at the city's wholesale market was 273 rupees per kilogram for bee onions, 93 rupees per kilogram for potatoes, 811 rupees and 50 cents per kilogram for dried sprats, 848 rupees per kilogram for mung beans, and 2,319 rupees per kilogram for Maldive fish. The committee raises concerns about the potential for tax evasion given these high profit margins. The report indicates that 4,773 individuals owe more than 10 million rupees in individual unpaid taxes. Furthermore, the committee questions the fairness of price setting in the absence of a clear pricing mechanism, particularly when it disproportionately benefits a limited number of individuals. The Committee on Ways and Means, during a press conference held today at the Parliament complex, announced the development of a system to prevent arbitrary invoice practices.
We have informed Sri Lanka Customs to notify the Committee on Ways and Means on price of a kilogram of any essential commodity when the goods reach the port. We requested that those figures also be directed to the Department of Census and Statistics and the Consumer Affairs Authority. In addition, those entities are informed to take into consideration other expenses such as transportation, insurance, etc. and come up with a certified maximum retail price for individual items. This needs to be done weekly. We have made it clear that unlawful profiteering similar to what took place in December cannot be allowed. We will not allow that.
The Committee on Ways and Means also informed the Inland Revenue Department to take steps to recover unpaid taxes.
A recommendation was made to the Inland Revenue Department to obtain the names of importers who made undue profits in importing essential goods to the country. We recommended that the unpaid taxes be recovered from the said importers. There are 4,773 people who have not paid over 10 million rupees in individual taxes. The Inland Revenue Department was informed to submit their names to the Parliament. The Consumer Affairs Authority decided to cease deciding on the MRP via the Food Policy Council. We informed them that to make recommendations to us to ensure that unlawful profiteering is prevented. We believe that a proper system will be put in place.
ඉදිරි කාලයේදී අපි හිතනවා මේ මාසය ඇතුළත අපට පුළුවන් මේ ක්‍රමවේදයක් සකස් කරන්න.
The issue was discussed in Parliament today.
I object to the government raising tax rates while failing to collect the evaded taxes identified in the Ways and Means report. Union leaders suggest that tax collection could begin on incomes exceeding 250,000 rupees. By not acting on the information in this report, the government appears to be protecting the country's wealthy billionaires.
මෙන්න මේ ක්‍රමසහවිධි වාර්තාවේ තියෙන මේ තොරතුරු ක්‍රියාත්මක කරන්න නැතුව මේ රටේ ඉන්න සුපිරි කෝටිපතියන්ව සුපිරි පොසතුන්ව ආරක්ෂා කරනවා.
The revelations made by the Committee on Ways and Means are very important. We intend to delve deeper into these findings and submit a report to Parliament within the next parliamentary week. I would like to highlight some points based on my general knowledge. We are talking about taxes that have been evaded for 30 years. While we have recovered approximately 35% of that amount in this short period, a significant portion, roughly 90%, remains tied up in court proceedings. This highlights a discrepancy between the information in reports and the reality on the ground. Liquor licenses were suspended because taxes weren't paid. However, those same licenses have been re-granted even though the taxes remain unpaid. If manufacturing is halted due to a lack of licenses, then we won't be able to collect any revenue. This highlights the significant gap between what reports say and what's practical on the ground. There are certain taxes where reducing the rates might not necessarily win the government favor. This is particularly true when tax increases target business profits. In such cases, businesses often simply raise their prices the next day, claiming the higher tax rate as justification. When tax rates are lowered, businesses may not necessarily reduce their prices, arguing that their existing stock was purchased under the previous tax regime. This creates a dilemma for policymakers. Some officials, fearing parliamentary criticism for raising taxes that benefit businesses indirectly, are hesitant to implement such measures. I've personally witnessed this reluctance within the finance ministry. However, inaction isn't a solution either. Therefore, a careful re-evaluation of tax policy decisions is crucial.
According to the World Bank, Sri Lanka's economy is showing signs of recovery after a rough 2022. But the bank warns of persistent poverty, income inequality and labour market issues.
Poverty rates continue to rise for the fourth year in a row, with an estimated 25.9% of Sri Lankans living below the poverty line in 2023.
The launch of World Bank's April 2024 economic updates for South Asia and Sri Lanka was held in Colombo today.
World Bank's April 2024 economic updates for South Asia and Sri Lanka underwent in Colombo today, highlighting the South Asia Development Update with the theme Jobs for Resilience and the Sri Lanka Development Update with the theme Bridge to Recovery.
The World Bank said in its latest biannual update that Sri Lanka's economy is projected to see moderate growth of 2.2% in 2024, showing signs of stabilization following the severe economic downturn of 2022. Sri Lanka's economy is growing, but what does it mean for everyday life?
In the last quarter, the economy has grown. That means basically people's income, which decreased as a result of economic crisis, is recovering. But economic reforms is most important. That means we have to transform the key structure of the economy to increase the income of the people. At the same time, it also indicates that people have cut down on their food intake, people have reduced their spending on education, people have borrowed more money to cover the expenditure according to the same report.
Sri Lanka still faces elevated poverty levels, income inequality and labour market concerns. Released today, the Sri Lanka Development Update, Bridge to Recovery, highlights that Sri Lanka saw declining inflation, higher revenues on the back of the implementation of new fiscal policies and a current account surplus for the first time in nearly 5 decades, buoyed by increased remittances and a rebound in tourism. However, poverty rates continue to rise for the fourth year in a row, with an estimated 25.9% of Sri Lankans living below the poverty line in 2023.
1 out of every 3 people are living in poverty. That means they are basically not earning about 700 to 800 rupees a day as their income. So that's the gravity of the crisis.
Poverty rates are anticipated to remain above 22% until 2026. Meanwhile, senior country economists for Sri Lanka highlighted that although Sri Lanka's economy is showing positive signs, however, there are risks to this recovery concerning policy reforms and deep debt restructuring.
Despite these sort of macro positive signs, Sri Lanka's path to recovery remains. So over the medium term, we expect, or at least this year, we expect some positive growth and moderate recovery over the medium term. We certainly don't see a quick bounce back. Over the medium term, we expect inflation to be moderate and remain benign. However, downside risks remain high, with especially these very limited buffers. And I'd say 2 risks I really want to emphasize. The first one is around the elections this year. The potential we see, or the concern we see around policy reversal or policy fatigue. particularly around the reforms that have been implemented. And the other one is obviously a prolonged and insufficiently, say, deep debt restructuring, which would be a significant drag on the economy.
The report projects a modest pickup in growth of 2.5% in 2025, with a gradual increase in inflation and a small current account surplus.
In light of Sri Lanka's poverty highlighted in the latest World Bank report, the Cabinet of Ministers approved leasing 4 aircraft to Sri Lankan Airlines, the national carrier that has been making continuous massive losses. The lease cost exceeds $1.5 million per month.
The Cabinet of Ministers approved a proposal put forward by Minister of Ports, Shipping and Aviation Nimal Siripala de Silva to acquire wide-bodied aircraft on lease. 2 aircraft will be leased from Oryx Aviation for 6 years at a monthly lease of $360,000 each. Sri Lankan Airlines will lease 2 more aircraft for 8 years from Airgo Capital at a monthly lease of $365,000 each.
The Cabinet approved a proposal presented by the Minister Nimal Siripala de Silva proposing the acquisition of 4 wide-bodied aircraft for Sri Lanka Airlines through an operating lease.
Sri Lankan Airlines, which suffered a loss of 45.231 billion rupees in 2021, saw that loss hike to 166.369 billion rupees in 2022. Having incurred a loss of 73.621 billion rupees in 2023, the national carrier is now calling bids for the restructuring of Sri Lankan Airlines. The Cabinet's approval to acquire 4 more aircraft raises concerns considering Sri Lankan Airlines' ongoing losses and the fact that several existing planes are grounded due to a lack of funds for repairs. In a separate but significant move, the Cabinet greenlit a proposal by Tourism Minister Harin Fernando to allow the import of 1,000 vehicles specifically for the tourism industry.
The Cabinet approved the import of 250 buses, including 30 and 45-seater buses. In addition, 750 vehicles are available in the tourism business, including 6 15-seater vans, electric and hybrid vehicles. 16 30-seater buses and 250 16 to 30 or 30 to 45-seater buses. The total amount comes to over 1,000. This measure is limited only to those engaged in the tourism sector. The President appointed several committees for this matter. Following their recommendations, the President made a challenging decision.
When's the election?
Former MP Sunil Handunnetti says that National People's Power leader Anurakumar Dissanayake is ready for an open debate with Samagi Jana Balawegaya leader Sajith Premadasa, and this is regarding economic policies.
Several SJB MPs, including Nalin Bandara and Harsha De Silva, have invited the NPP Economic Council for a debate. We are glad to accept this invitation. To maintain the quality of politics, there is no issue in having such political dialogues or debates between 2 parties. But we are heading towards an election. To facilitate a productive discussion for our citizens in choosing their presidential candidate, we request a formal written invitation for your leader to participate in a debate rather than relying on media announcements. Our leader Anura Dissanayake is ready for that. If they are contesting the president, it is important that the people of the country are aware of the economic policies of those leaders with accountability from those leaders themselves. Let's reserve a venue, date and channel for the debate. It is best if the debate is between Anura Dissanayake and Sajith Premadasa. If Sajith Premadasa is not willing to take this offer, let us know what we should do next.
When's the election?
Who is this debate against? These are the views expressed by MP Chandima Weerakkodi. Some people can speak well, walk well and dress well, but we must consider if that is a measure of their ability to rule a country. If the JVP thinks they are capable of rebuilding the economy, we have a finance committee, and the JVP also has a finance committee headed by Sunil Handunnetti. They say he will be the finance minister. We invite you to a debate and allow us to ask questions before the public. Gotabaya Rajapaksa did the same. When we invited him to a debate, he did not accept it. What happened in the end? Don't let that happen this time. Question the politicians, consider their responses and plan, and vote for the country.
News First with the people.
Satyagrahas were staged today at two separate locations in Colombo, demanding the release of political activists arrested during a recent People's Struggle Movement protest.
The People's Struggle Movement held a satyagraha in Trincomalee today. The group demanded the release of remanded activists Venerable Ratkarawe Jinratanathero, Duminda Nagamua and Lahiru Virasekara.
Land in Trincomalee is designated for an energy development zone according to a signed agreement with India. This plan reportedly involves the eviction of 7,000 families from Trincomalee city, potentially followed by further land acquisition.
The People's Struggle Movement also engaged in a satyagraha at the Kadawatha junction today.
Sri Lanka is linked by electric cables and oil pipelines. Under a recent agreement, India will reportedly take over the administration of oil tankers in Trincomalee. There is growing Indian influence in Sri Lanka's infrastructure, including airports and ports.
Representatives of several trade unions visited the Valikada prison today to check on the well-being of activists who were arrested during the protest held in Colombo against tax burden, public oppression and suppression.
The
police made these arrests without following any legal procedures. This suggests a motive beyond simply enforcing the law. The current government aims to silence dissent and prevent public concerns from being raised.
They were
arrested for voicing the public's needs and wants. They were taken into custody solely for raising their voices on behalf of the people of this country. We are protesting these suppressive activities and strongly object to this treatment. This is not an attack only on Lahiru Virasekara or Duminda Nagamua. This is an attack on all oppressed people of the country. The Ranil Wickremesinghe Rajapaksa government should come forward against the suppression. If he cannot lead the government without making false claims, then hold an election immediately and hand over the government to a party which has the ability to lead the country.
CA Sri Lanka recently organized a career fair and a workshop to shape the professional trajectory of Sri Lanka's youth.
The Career Fair and Workshop 2024, organized by the Institute of Chartered Accountants of Sri Lanka, was held in Colombo recently. The keynote speech was delivered by Vice President of CA Sri Lanka, Tishan Subasinghe.
There's a huge demand for Asian accountants, especially Indian Sri Lankan accountants, because elsewhere in the world, Europe, USA, the new generation, for some reason they are shifting to other careers which had created enormous job opportunities in the world for accountants. Once you acquire the qualification, you have kind of a global passport to go and work in wherever you want, provided you have the right skill set, not merely the qualification.
It was held under the theme Achieving Excellence to serve as a platform for young aspiring individuals to explore and navigate potential career paths within the field.
Will Delhi's Chief Minister be released prior to the election?
Who was behind the attack on the Iranian consulate building in Damascus?
And of course, what's the latest from the war between Israel and Gaza?
Ditmani and Jawad bring us a comprehensive report on these stories on The World Today.
Now, for news from India. Delhi's Chief Minister, a key opposition leader, must remain in custody for a further 2 weeks, a court has ruled, with India's opposition parties accusing the government of match-fixing before the country's elections later this month. On Monday, a court ruled that Arvind Kejriwal, the Chief Minister of Delhi, could remain in judicial custody till the 15th of April and will be sent to Delhi's notorious Tihar jail.
Now, Kejriwal, who has been accused of corruption, leads the Aam Aadmi Party, which has governed Delhi since 2015, and is part of an opposition alliance which have come together to fight the Prime Minister Narendra Modi and the ruling Bharatiya Janata Party. Now, the court ruling will keep Kejriwal behind bars at a crucial time of campaigning for AAP and the opposition coalition just before the national elections, which will begin on the 19th of April when Modi will be seeking a third term in power.
Now, Kejriwal was dramatically arrested from his home 2 weeks ago. The first time a sitting chief minister has been detained, and he stands accused of being a kingpin of an alleged scam by his government to receive about 1 billion rupees from corrupt deals and kickbacks
from a new alcohol licensing policy.
The Hindu reported that Delhi minister and Aam Aadmi Party leader Atisha alleged that she was approached by the Bharatiya Janata Party to join the party or faced arrest by the Enforcement Directorate within a month. Now, Atisha at a press conference in Delhi further said that the BJP plans to break the AAP by sending all its leaders to jail.
The senior minister claimed that over the next 2 months, the ED will conduct raids on herself, Saurabha Bharadwaj, Durgesh Pathak and Raghav Chanda, then summon them for questioning and then arrest them.
Now, Iran's Revolutionary Guard says 7 officers have been killed in an Israeli strike on the Iranian consulate building in Syria's capital, Damascus. Now, Brigadier Mohammad Reza Zahedi, a senior commander of the elite Quds force, and Brigadier Mohammad Hadi Haji Rahimi, his deputy, were named among the dead. Now, Iran and Syria's governments condemned the attack, which destroyed a building next door to the Iranian embassy.
Now, the Israeli military said it did not comment on foreign media reports. However, it has acknowledged carrying out hundreds of strikes in recent years on targets in Syria that it says are linked to Iran and allied armed groups which are armed, funded and trained by the Revolutionary Guards. The Israeli strikes have reportedly been stepped up since the start of the war in Gaza in October last year in response to cross-border attacks on northern Israel by Hezbollah and other Iran-backed groups in Lebanon and Syria.
But Monday's attack will be seen as a serious escalation.
Now, moving on to the latest from the Israel-Gaza war, 7 aid workers have been killed in Gaza in what their charity's founder said was an Israeli airstrike. World Central Kitchen said workers from countries including the UK, Poland and Australia were killed.
Now, WCK founder and chef Jose Andres said they were killed in an IDF airstrike. The Israel Defense Forces said it was conducting a thorough review.
Gaza's Hamas-run media office also blamed Israel. The alleged strike could not be immediately verified independently.
Indo-Lanka fishing controversy.
Parliamentarian Govinda Kumaratunga said in Parliament today that there is a doubt as to if the island of Kachativu that currently belongs to Sri Lanka will slip away from Sri Lanka.
Now, the Chennai High Court has once again urged the central government of India to consider the plight of Tamil Nadu fisherfolk and discuss with the Sri Lankan government to find an equitable solution for both Tamil Nadu and Sri Lankan fisherfolk.
In 1974, Srimati Indira Gandhi's government, in order to maintain good relations with Sri Lanka, and in order to help lakhs and lakhs of Tamils in Sri Lanka, negotiated with the Sri Lankan government, and in that negotiation the settlement was that Kachativu, a very small island, about 1.9 square kilometers, will be acknowledged as belonging to Sri Lanka, and in return 6 lakh Tamils were allowed to come to India. They have come here, their families are here, they've got full freedom, they are breathing the free air. The issue was closed 50 years ago. Now, why is the Prime Minister taking up that issue instead of talking about recent issues? 2,000 square kilometers of Indian territory is occupied by Chinese troops. That's a fact. The Ladakh MP has pointed it out, and India is said to have engaged China in 21 discussions. Yet the Prime Minister said no Chinese troops is present in Indian territory and no part of Indian territory is under occupation of Chinese troops. Now that was said publicly And we've been asking him, you've given a clean chit to China. And China media broadcasts every day, every week. They've spread it all over the world that the Indian Prime Minister has given a clean chit to China. Now, he should talk about that, which has happened in the last 2-3 years, instead of talking about something 50 years ago.
Indian fisherfolk have requested politicians to refrain from politicizing the issues surrounding the Kachativu Island.
Even though it is really happy that all the political party leaders are talking about Kachativu and Tamil Nadu fisherfolk for the last 2 days, it is really sad that the Prime Minister of India, who came to power in 2014 and is politicizing this issue without speaking anything about fisherfolk until 2024 at the cusp of an election. Didn't you know about this issue for the past 10 years? Why are you politicizing this issue of fisherfolk? Today there are 165 boats in Sri Lanka. When you came to power in 2014, there was not a single boat impounded by Sri Lanka. The Congress government got all of them released. We need to get back the boats and fisherfolk that are in the custody of Sri Lankan authorities.
During the media conference held today in Jaffna, fisherfolk in Jaffna stressed that the Sri Lankan government should reveal their stance regarding this issue.
The issue of Kachativu Island is being talked about only in India. I think that neither the Sri Lankan government nor the President or the Prime Minister of Sri Lanka have shown any concern to our members of Parliament in the north. If Kachativu is given away, no fisherfolk in the north will be able to catch fish. Why is there so much encroachment going on when the Kachativu Island is owned by Sri Lanka? If Kachativu Island is ceded to India, the fishing community of the northern province will be left behind. Now that elections are coming up in India, they are using it as an election strategy. In Sri Lanka, they are silent. At the same time, wind power plants in Mannar will be given to Adani. Tamil-speaking members of parliament are complicit. While these politicians keep saying that Kachativu Island should be saved, the members of parliament in the north do not talk about this. It is the fisherfolk that will suffer if Kachativu is returned to India.
Meanwhile, MP Govinda Kumaratunga said in Parliament today that there is a huge doubt as to if Sri Lanka will lose the Kachativu Island.
There is a lot of speculation regarding the connection of a foreign power with the Easter Sunday attack based on former President Maithripala Sirisena's comments. Today there is a huge doubt as to if Kachativu, which belongs to our country, will be lost.
Still in local news, Sri Lanka's Sirasa has decided to reduce the prices of several essential items ahead of the upcoming festive season.
පහුගිය දවස්වල රුපියල් 60-65ට වැඩි වුණ බිත්තරය අද වෙනකොට රුපියල්
The cost of local eggs has skyrocketed to 65 rupees, surpassing the previous limit of 40 rupees. To provide some relief, Lanka Sirasa is offering imported eggs at a discounted price. These eggs previously priced at 43 rupees will be available for just 36 rupees at all Lanka Sirasa branches until the Sinhala New Year. This offer starts from midnight today. Lanka Sirasa is also implementing price reductions on other essential goods effective from midnight tonight. Bee onions will be available for 550 rupees. A 400-gram packet of Lanka Sirasa milk powder will see a price drop to 494 rupees, down from its current market price of 1,100 rupees. Wheat flour prices are also being reduced to 191 rupees per kilogram. Sudu kakulu will see a price reduction of 2 rupees per kilo. Red onion prices are dropping by 300 rupees, bringing the new price down to 290 rupees per kilogram. Imported potatoes will also be more affordable at 195 rupees per kilogram, a decrease of 30 rupees. Soya meat is being reduced to 593 rupees per kilogram.
රසකාරක රහිත සෝයා මීට් රුපියල් 593 දක්වා කිලෝ එකකින් අපි මිල අඩු කරනවා.
Today is day 4 of the second test between Bangladesh and Sri Lanka. Bangladesh needs 243 runs to win.
Batting first, Sri Lanka scored 531 runs, while Bangladesh only managed to score 178 runs. Angelo Matthews top scored for the Sri Lankan side during their second innings with 56 runs. Sri Lanka scored 157 runs for the loss of 7 wickets in 40 overs and declared the innings, giving Bangladesh a massive target of 511 runs. Mu'minul Haq scored 50 runs. Bangladesh won 268 runs for the loss of 7 wickets at stumps on day 4 in Chattogram. The Bangladesh side need 243 runs to win with 3 wickets in hand.
Coming to bend disaster job at forward short leg, and this time at Chaudhary Cricket Stadium, Bangladesh have survived this band of merryman.
And that's a wrap of Primetime News on TV1 for tonight.
Thank you very much for watching. Good night.